Good morning. It is 11:09. I woke up at 10. I slept in, obviously, because I'm taking the day off. This is April 27th, and that makes day 8 here in Thailand. Cheap bicycle through Thailand. I'm switching hostels because this one went back up to an $8 average. I got it at $5 at the time. And I was able to locate, even though everything around here is $8 on the average for hostels, I was able to locate one that was for $4 up called the European House, Pattaya, up north. It's only about 8.5 kilometers north from here, so I'll probably go down to 7-Eleven or somewhere like that, get some caffeine in me and stuff like that. And I still have yesterday's video to edit, so I might just kick up my feet a little, do that. Other than that, yeah, no, this is just going to be a few days off here in Pattaya. I have nothing really planned and stuff like that. I just move my bags and stuff. I'm all packed up. I just need to tie it off to my bike and go. But it's not check-in time yet. Sorry, there's a lot of traffic here. I'm not sure how well this audio is coming up. We're right off the main street here. Something that's been addressed, I addressed, I think, in my very first video. But I know a lot of people are not going to watch the videos in sequence. They're only going to watch the ones from the place they like Vietnam or Cambodia. And they're not going to get the little sections of my backstory that I do put in, even though I don't have a lot. And something that came up that I know I kind of addressed a little bit, but I should probably readdress, is how and where am I getting my income from? How am I able to travel like this? And there's the long story and the short stories. I'm going to go for more of the short story, so I'm not going to give you the full backstory. I'll do that later. I'm not really trying to hide my backstory. It's just sometimes I got to narrow everything down so I can make it digestible. So the main portion of my money, I do have a small passive income that I got. In my early days of travel, I was like every other hobo, there's only two real main forms of income as you're traveling. There's food stamps, right? Food stamps are the most common that everybody has. I mean, everybody utilizes that government program. But the other one is just begging. It really is. So you're a traveling begging hobo, and you fly a sign. You get what we used to call a credit card, because that's how you made all your money. That's how it was, which was a permanent marker, a black permanent marker, Marks a Lot or whatever, was one of the name brands of one. I always preferred the really thick ones, that way you go over one time over it and it stands out really big. And then you just put something on your piece of cardboard that says, homeless traveler, anything helps. Some people say don't use the word help because cops in some districts will harass you because it says help on it and all this, right? And there's legalities. The hardest thing is avoiding the cops from giving you a bad time. And it's just, that's just a given anywhere you go. So, so I begged along with everybody else. I flew a sign. You're not going to make a lot of money. You're making $20, $30, enough for beer, a bag of wine between you and your friends, a bag of wine, like the 5-liter. We call them space bags because you rip out the bag from the inside and it's silver, from the 5-liter box. And then you just sat around the campfire and just passed that bad boy all around, and everybody, and for $8, everybody got drunk, the small group that you were with, like 3 or 4 people or whatever, right? Most groups were never over 5 people, but yeah, I mean, and we all went out, we'd hit the streets, and, we'd fly our sign. A lot of times we'd just sit in our group, we didn't separate and divide and conquer. Now we just sat as a group, and we just all socially begged together, and until we got just little money and we go buy our booze, our food, and our cigarettes. And that's how it was. That was the lifestyle. That's the hobo lifestyle. And so that's where I came from, and that's, it's a very hand-to-mouth existence. The money that you make for that day is the money that you spend that day. And then the next day you're broke again. So you're never broke when you're always asking for money, right? So I spent a long time doing that. A majority of my time doing that. Later on, I was able to get a small pension income, very small, that I always refer as my pension. And the backstory on that one's going to have to wait for later, because that also involves a whole big story. But so I do have a small income that comes in. Not large, it's about $1,300, and then it varies, sometimes less, sometimes more. So that it does, and when I first got that, which took a long process, that became, I no longer had to beg, right? And that was great, that was awesome that I went from begging all the time to where I really didn't have to. But that wasn't something you really were able to share with anybody else, because now you become the other person. You become pension babies is what we used to call them. Pension babies or money babies, they got some type, where are they getting their money from? Why don't they have to beg? And that's the mentality. And when someone has found out that they do have money, everybody else decides to, latch on to that person, and it's like, well, you got money, you need to be spending that money on me. And it's a bad attitude. It changes people's, in the begging world, to how they perceive you. So that money, any type of income or passive income or anything like that always needs to be zipped up, hush hush, unless you're physically being seen working. If they can actually physically see you trying to sell something, they understand. That you're a worker, not really the traveling hobo. But that was still a hand-to-mouth existence. There were times I'd run out of money each month and stuff like that. And it wasn't until COVID hit, and I was living in a tent in Tennessee, right? I was traveling through Tennessee from Hawaii. I was going to Tennessee to actually join a cult. And I didn't know it was a cult. And actually, I'm hesitant to call it a cult, because people called it a cult when I was in it, and we were like, it's not a cult. But then you get out and you're like, yeah, maybe it was a cult, But like I said, these all have long backstories. So that's how I ended up in Tennessee, living in my tent still, because I'm still the homeless traveler, right? That's engraved in me, right? I do have a small passive income, so I don't really need to work or do anything or beg. Those two things, work or beg. Everybody needs money. But they always saw me charging up my devices, my little battery banks and stuff, and they knew I was homeless somewhere out in the field. I found a beautiful 38 acres, because Cleveland, Tennessee is a lot of open land everywhere. It's just undeveloped commercial land. That means they haven't built any commercial buildings on it. It's private property in the fact that it's owned by a corporation, but that corporation has not built anything on it. So it was just a big, open, beautiful pine trees and deers and bunny rabbits, and I was overlooking the KOA campgrounds. I was first in the KOA campgrounds, paying $25 a night, and I was like, I can't afford this, right, for setting up my own tent. Got on Google Maps, saw the big old field right up on top, up on top of the hill. So I took an access road, an overgrown access road up to the top of the hill. I guess it's a little bit of a challenge to get up there, which made it safe for when I set up my tent. And it was a nice big flat area, and that they flattened out and just let it grow, everything grow back, because I never used it. Very clean, very beautiful, and yeah, I stayed there. And I actually stayed there for 4 years. I didn't work the first year, but at the pilot truck stop, they kept seeing me. No one wanted to go back to work after COVID, so the guy's like, hey, do you want a job if we ever need, an extra employee? It's like, yeah, I haven't worked in, almost 10 years or whatever, right? But then they lost all their employees, but they forgot about me. They always saw me. They just forgot that I was willing to work. And they're like, hey, we don't have maintenance, we don't have janitorial, we don't have someone basically clean the toilets, the showers that the truckers use, because they come in, they sleep in the back parking lot in their trucks, but they come in, wash up in our showers and, you know, whatever, eat at the Subway there. So, yeah, I was like, hell yeah, I'll work, right? Because it's COVID. Everybody's like, stay at home and, you know, this and that, and no travels, you know, over borders and all this. So I was already staying in one place anyway because, you know, I was going to this churchish synagogue, Hebrew roots type of Messianic congregation, you know. That was kind of labeled a cult, but you know, I don't know. Yeah, so I just worked. I worked my ass off for 3 years because I was like, I better buy at least a small piece of property because I don't know what this is. I mean, it was scary. Early days of COVID was scary. You know, it was like, what the hell's going on? And because everybody pretty well knew it was man-made anyway. I mean, I thought that was the normal gist of it. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe the whole world didn't. News was kind of weird back then. But regardless, you were hearing this, and I was like, okay, well, you know, this is kind of scary. What do we do if this ever happens again? So I was like, I need at least a small piece of property. Get a tough shed for like $6,000. It's like a barn style. Put a loft in it. Do the insulation and the drywall myself, and do, you know, and just fix it up with solar panels and whatnot, and have a tiny off-grid house for around $10,000. All I really have to do is lay the cement pad, right? That which isn't too hard, for like 10 by 12, you know, and they come in and they set it all up for you, all the lumber and the labor, and it wasn't much. It was about $7,000. But it was meant to be a shed. You just convert it from a shed into a living quarters. And I was just going to do that. But so I saved everything I would be paying for rent, which would be, this is the United States, so Tennessee is around $1,000 for a one bedroom. You could probably still find $800 places and stuff, but I was saving between $1,000 to $1,500 every month, sticking in an account. Sometimes I push it harder and try and go for $2,000. And I just kept saving that. And after 3 years, it built up so big. Not so big. I'm not, by far, I'm not saying it's I can buy a luxury apartment. I can buy a small one acre and put a tough shed on it. Because I have to buy it outright. No one's going to give a bank loan to a homeless person. So I have to go in with the cash and say, bang, here it is. So I saved those 3 years, and I just worked my ass off, and I saved every penny. But I also gained something out of that. All those worries and things about what happens when my money runs out. For the very first time, I actually had what you call a bird's nest. A small amount of money that's in the bank that can always come in and rescue you. So that's what happened. I ended up working up a bird's nest. And regardless that I didn't buy the property and I decided to do world travel instead, I still have, my expenditure is still of that homeless person. My expenditure is bill free. I don't, my accommodations are always cheap. Because if I run out of that money, you better believe I'm going back to work. Because I'm not going to ever not have a bird's nest again. I'm not going to have a small amount. I've realized the benefits of doing this late in my life too. You know, this is like, I wish I would have learned this when I was way younger. It would have saved me a lot of hardships and a lot of sleeping in the cold and a lot of shivering at night and all this. If I would have just taken some precautions and said, I can get a small hotel room tonight, you know. Which is the thing I did do eventually. I did make sure I at least had 3 days worth of hotel room in my bank account. But that was only for when the weather got so bad that it was a life or death situation. So sorry guys, there's the backstory. 15 minutes, I'll leave it at that. So how do I travel and how do I afford these things? First, I make sure I can afford these things by it being affordable. That means I sleep in my tent, or I sleep in my hammock preferably. But if it's cheap enough for a shower and a hot and a cot, then yeah, I'll do a good shower for less than $10. So, but other than that, I'm gonna keep this mentality because it's me. It's how I've always been and stuff like this, and I like being this way. It's something that I chose to be, and yeah, and honestly, I know a lot of people who say, oh, you don't ever want to be homeless and stuff. Almost all homeless people choose to be homeless, and that's honest. It's the majority of the people that I've met. Maybe it's just because the people that I met. Now, I know there's some people that do that, they hit down on their luck and stuff like that. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying, well, there's a lot of people that have poverty. No, I'm not saying that either. There's poverty is poverty, and some people hit down on their luck. But the majority of the people that you see that are traveling, and at least the travelers and stuff, they choose to be that way. There's nothing stopping us from going out and getting a job. No matter, it's just you can't be picky at what job it is. You gotta have to be willing to wash toilets. Scrub poo. All day long, and just be the grunt work. I mean, I did that. I was the grunt. I did all the crap work they didn't want to do, and I got paid for it. I got a paycheck, and now I'm doing this. So it all paid off. Roll up the sleeves, scrub a little poo, and you'll be right where I'm at. All right, guys. There's a hobo ramble for you. So I hope that helps you guys understand a little where my money is coming from. I'll try and inform you a little more about the cult, maybe my religious experiences and my travels and stuff, and my small pension. I can talk about that later. Some of that gets into. I have a few sections of my life maybe I don't want to talk about quite yet, just because maybe they're more like they're more personal and more not personal. What do you say? They're parts of your life you don't want to talk about too much. The depressing times and stuff like that. And, I don't think that would make for good TV. No, but yeah, no. Eventually, I'll talk about all of that. But all right, guys. I'm gonna go ahead and call it quits here. 17 and a half minutes. Not quite my record, but close. All right, guys, it is 1:55. It's going on 2 o'clock, let's say. I'm a little ways from the European House hostel, and I just decided to take out my camera. I haven't actually been doing much of anything. I've been just sitting at the 7-Eleven, doing the 7-Eleven, drinking some coffee and eating bananas, and they had a little table on the inside, so I just was kicking up feet, and I think we're coming up to it right here. Let's see. So, yeah, I think we're coming up to it. Or I just passed it, maybe. Yeah, here it is. It rained on me earlier too, by the way, and I just heard some lightning up, or not lightning, thunder. I heard some thunder. So we have been having pretty well all day some dark clouds that just been hovering really low over us. I mean, I love clouds though, but so it might just rain today, which will give me an excuse to actually just stay indoors. Stay indoors. I haven't checked in yet. I'm going in right now to do that and work on yesterday's video and try and get it out to you guys. This way. Whew. Hello. Yeah, I gotta let me put my stuff down. Okay, there we go. Which one? The bottom? All right, cool. Thank you, brother. Yeah. Thank you. Cool. That's home sweet home. Hey guys, it is 7:15 right now, and I'm just finishing up editing yesterday's video. I have not been out except for what I filmed when I woke up this morning. I got on the bike and I went to 7-Eleven. I spent most of the time at 7-Eleven just eating, like I said, eating bananas and responding to comments. So, yeah, just hiding in the AC. They had a table, like I said already. Yeah, so I've just been spending the whole time editing up to now. So I have not got hardly any material on today's. I'll talk about that. So I decided to spend actual extra time on the video today as a form of just actually relaxation and just playing around with other things. It actually turned out to be a better video than I thought. I didn't think I had any material yesterday, but some of the pictures, the scenes like on the beach when I was leaving camp, wow, that was so beautiful. I should have filmed that for longer. It's just wet sand and one handing the bike with the camera in the other. I was like, okay, that's enough, but I really wish I would have got more. That beach was awesome, at least that scene. But you never know until after you look at the footage, and then you realize, oh man, I should have filmed more of that or something like this. But like I said, this is all new. Starting a YouTube channel for the people that don't know. I started it in Vietnam. I've never done media. I've never done social media. I'm not a big Facebook guy or anything else. I like to watch YouTube videos, and but I've never interacted and made my own. So the channel's new. The camera is new. I decided that my phone camera just wasn't cutting it. So you can see the transition in my early videos from phone camera to actual real camera, which is awesome. This camera does all the work for me. But you also see that I was learning how to edit. I do all my editing on my phone, for you guys that don't know. This is old news for the people that have been watching my videos for a while. So as I learned, I fully openly admitted, I just learned to put text in I just learned to put music in. I just learned to, do a voiceover or whatever. I openly admit these things as I go along. So I'm still learning. So spending extra time doing some editing, I get to experiment a little. So you'll see me change my style a little, but I'll always usually fall back to the style that I feel most comfortable in. But what is that style? I don't know yet. I'm still experimenting. All right, guys, so I'll probably go out and get something to eat, but I still want to get today's video together, even if it might be just a short one, just updating you guys on what I'm doing. I hope you guys like this one because I spent a lot of time on it. After it's done converting the video over, I'll upload it to YouTube. And I think I got a few more comments I still haven't gotten back to, but yeah, you guys are awesome. It's very nice to have you guys along for the ride, and I like staying completely open and interactive with all you guys. So I wish I could open a chat board on YouTube, though. That's why when I post all my videos, I like to at least set them all as premieres, just to open, even if it's just for a short window of time, to open a chat room. So if any of you guys do jump in and want to ask me questions, I'll keep an eye on the chat room. But that's only if I'm around my phone. Sometimes I have to hide my phone in my locker or something, if I still get Wi-Fi in the locker, and upload it that way. And if I'm not around and leave to do something, because it needs to remain in a Wi-Fi area. So after it uploads, if it jumps right into the premiere, I might not be around my phone. So if you ask me a question, I might not be able to respond, or I might just be doing something different at the time. But if I am there, I'll jump in and chat it up with any of you guys, answer whatever questions and stuff. But it would be nice to learn how to get more of a permanent style chat room working on a person's channel. But all right, guys, that's it. And I'm gonna go out after this is done, go out, look for something to eat, and I might film then, maybe not, maybe, I don't know. All right, peace.